It was a time when the earth was filled with darkness. The sky turned black, and a cold wind blew. People heard terrible sounds from the heavens, as if the world itself was about to end. The sun was hidden, and the moon turned red. The earth trembled as if it were afraid. Something huge was coming. This was the beginning of the Battle of Armageddon. In the book of Revelation, John the Apostle saw a vision of this battle. He saw a mighty army of angels who followed God's command. These angels were preparing to fight against the armies of the world that had gathered in one place, a place called Armageddon. This was the final battle between good and evil, where everyone would see the true power of God. Revelation 16:16. The leaders of the nations came together. They were powerful kings, rulers, and great warriors. They came from all parts of the earth: Babylon, Persia, Rome, and other mighty kingdoms. Among them, names like Gog and Magog stood out, mentioned in the book of Ezekiel, Ezekiel 38:2-3. They were ancient enemies of God's people, Israel. In the last days, they would come together to destroy the people of God. One of the most famous men in this time was a mighty general named Armageddon. He had gathered all the strongest armies to fight against God's people, thinking he could defeat them. But he was wrong. The armies were led by an evil king, a man of great power who thought he could defeat God himself. This king was like the Antichrist, a man who opposed everything good and holy. His name was not important, for he was the face of all evil. As the battle began, the earth shook with thunder and lightning. The sky split open, and from the heavens came a great army of angels. The angel Michael, the leader of God's heavenly army, stood at the front. He held a sword shining like the sun. With him were thousands of other angels, all ready for battle. The armies of the evil king marched forward with great noise. They thought they could defeat the forces of heaven, but they did not know who they were fighting against. The angels came down and swept through the battlefield like a mighty wind. The armies of Gog and Magog, along with all their followers, were defeated in an instant. As it was written in Ezekiel, they were destroyed by God's power. Ezekiel 39:4. At the same time, the people of Israel, God's chosen people, were safe. God protected them. He made sure that none of his people were harmed in this terrible battle. This showed everyone that God had not forgotten his promises. His people were not alone. They had a protector who was stronger than all the kings and generals of the world combined. As the battle ended, the kings of the earth and their armies were no more. They were thrown into a pit far from the presence of God. Their rule was finished and their power was taken away. The evil king, like a shadow, disappeared forever. After this, a new time began. The earth was peaceful and God's kingdom reigned forever. All who followed God's ways lived in peace, with no more war or sorrow. There were no more tears, no more hunger, and no more pain. This was the new heaven and the new earth, promised by God, Revelation 21:1. The people who had trusted in God were happy, for they knew that God had won the final victory. They could now live in peace with him forever. And so the Battle of Armageddon came to an end, just as it had been written. God showed his great power, and the enemies of his people were defeated once and for all. Now only his kingdom would remain.